Hello, this is David from DN Cognitive Counseling. Tonight I want to talk about something that's actually very solemn and very sad. There was an incident that took place in Central Park where a young woman was letting her dog run around the park area, and a man who happened to be African American comes along and says, listen, there's a rule. You need to have your dog on a leash. And the woman is holding her leash. Instead of abiding by the rule, the woman says, don't care, I'm going to do what I want. To which the man replied and said, basically, if you're going to do what you want, I'm going to do what I want. She took that from her standpoint as a threat. Now, I want you to understand that she's saying she felt threatened by the statement. And then we're going to take a look at the behavior and see whether or not that's congruent with the behavior. But I want you just to understand the context, because that part of the scene is not set. So he makes that comment. She then takes that, and let's take a look at what happens.
Please don't come close to me.
I'm taking a picture and calling the cops.
Please call the cops. Please call the cops.
I'm going to tell them there's an African American man threatening my life.
Please tell them whatever you like.
Would you please stop? Sir, I'm asking you to stop.
Please don't come close to me.
Sir, I'm asking you to stop recording me.
Please don't come close to me.
Please take your phone off.
Please don't come close to
And I'm
me.
taking a picture and calling the cops.
Please call the cops. Please call the cops.
I'm going to tell them there's an African American man threatening my life.
Please tell them whatever you like.
Excuse me? I'm sorry, I'm in a ramble, and there is a man, African American, who has a bicycle helmet. He is recording me and threatening me and my dog. There is an African American man. I am in Central Park. He is recording me and threatening myself and my dog. And my... I'm sorry, I can't hear you either. I'm being threatened by a man in the ramble. Please send the cops immediately. I'm in Central Park in the ramble. I don't know.
Thank you. Please don't come close to
And
me.
I'm taking a picture and calling the cops.
Please call the cops. Please call the cops.
As you see from this video, sadly, you have a situation where a woman who claims that she's afraid takes the aggressive stance of coming towards and forward. Despite the fact that she takes that aggressive stance, she is physically abusing the dog that she's holding underneath. She is so incensed and enraged that she doesn't even think about what is actually going on, about what's going on around her. And instead of abiding by any rule, she turns the aspect of a threat against the man who is trying to get her to do the right thing. And she does it in a horrendous attack based upon a racist ideology. She smugly says, I'm going to tell him an African American man is threatening me. This is a horrific example and situation that gets involved not only in this one incident, but in the concept of when we talk about believe all women, or believe anybody for that matter. You notice in the video how when she's talking to the police, her voice steadily raises as to tell them, I'm in trouble, and get to the point of hysterics. The sad part is that had not the person who was videotaping the video, he would have put himself in danger based upon the idea, look, she's calling the police, and this horrible sounding video is there, the sound of her voice, and it sounds so real. One of the things that we have to take a look at as a people and a nation is the idea of systemic racism. The idea that I'm going to say you're an African American man and you're threatening me. But this doesn't only work against African American men. It works against many men in many different situations. Or against any time there's a situation where things are not recorded, where you get these stories that are he said, she said stories, where I believe all women or I believe all men. And the truth is, unless we have video like this, it's very hard to know what's real and what's not. But this is a wake-up call, hopefully, for all of us to understand that we can't judge a story by somebody's race or color or sex. We're all capable of telling the truth, but we're also all capable of lying. And every single individual has that capacity, whether their name is Donald Trump or Joe Biden, whether their name is one Cooper, Amy Cooper, or Christian Cooper. What I loved about this story more than anything else is they both had the same last name, as sort of like a scream to everybody saying, whether you believe one Cooper or another, one's a white woman and one's a black man. In the video, she tells him what lie she's going to tell the police. And people are very happy because Amy lost her job. I know in the video here it says she was suspended, and then today she lost her job, and people say that's justice. But there has been no justice. The system has failed once again. What was Amy attempting to do to Christian? She was attempting to get him arrested, to be thrown in prison, because she was using the trope of the African American man who is there frightening the young white woman. And she wanted the police to come to show him. Well, there's a law, and I'm going to show it to you. If you take a look, falsely reporting an incident is a third-degree crime for making a false report. So, what is that about? Spread or initiate a report or warning that is dishonest. This report or warning must be alleged or impending occurring any type of crime, emergency, or catastrophe. So the aspect is here, the New York penal law mandates that beyond making a fake representation as described, it is likely that the public alarm or inconvenience will result from the story you created or shared. And for sure, the lie that she created would have been a very big inconvenience, not only for Christian, but for, again, the whole aspect of how men are looked at, specifically African American men, in society as aggressors. When you hear the terms like male toxicity, masculine toxicity, and this image is that the man is always wrong, and the black man for sure is always wrong. These situations become very problematic, and these tropes that we create are very problematic. There are many men who are in jail today suffering because of things that they never knew existed. A woman that could lie to get him sent there. I've had a client many years ago who was a victim of domestic violence, and his significant other used a weapon on his head and basically caused it brain damage. We don't always think of these things. For most men who go through this, there's shame and guilt of like, how could I be this considering I'm supposed to be the one that's in charge? But when it comes to violence and lying, nobody has a monopoly on that type of behavior. The right thing would have been for Amy to have been arrested, for her to have to face the charges for what she did. But the police department did not follow through and do the right thing. It's not about did Amy get punished because she lost her job or the job held her accountable. The problem is our system has to become more fair. We have to have equality. Equality means being able to have everybody treated the same way. Do you think that if Christian would have been the aggressor and actually did something to harm her, or she had a mark on her arm, do you think that maybe possibly he would have been arrested, if not something worse? We know that anytime you have a police encounter, and considering the racial tensions that take place, things can go wrong fast and tragedy could take place. Not to saying that in every case it does, but the potential is there. Here was a man, by the way, who did a wonderful job of keeping his cool. Not one curse word. Didn't go ahead and start calling her any type of name. When she came out with him, the idea, I'm going to tell him, an African-American man, he could have came back and what most people would do would be attacked back on that racial level. He didn't do that. He stayed above the fray. He did an excellent job of being able to hold himself and help to just capture the situation of what she was doing as she was self-destructing. But the issue here is there were deep racial tropes all over the place that anger me because they exist and people suffer from this in our society all the time. Many years ago, I was brought for jury duty, and I didn't get on the jury. When the attorney asked me a question, he said, one of the questions were, do you work with criminals? And I raised my hand and I went like this. And then he said, do you think that makes you biased? So I said to the attorney, bias in which direction? And he goes, what do you mean? Well, because I work with criminals, does it mean that I'm more apt to believe when a criminal says something that they have more authenticity to what they're saying? Or is it that I work with criminals and therefore I see criminals as being all this group that's all horribly wrong? And he said to me, well, in either direction. And I said to him, no, I don't have a bias either way. That got me right off the jury. Because the problem with the question was, and the idea is that a criminal population, they must be a certain way. And they're not. All criminals are not equal. Not everybody that committed a crime thinks the same way and acts the same way. Amy here committed a crime. Videotaped. Here's the crime, clear as day, and didn't get arrested. That's a travesty of justice. It's a travesty for every single individual, man or woman, who have not been held accountable by the law or have been held accountable for situations where they shouldn't. And the situation here, there was videotape evidence. It was clear about the fact that there was a crime committed. She tells him, and as she's the aggressor coming towards him, I'm so scared of him that she keeps coming towards him. And he's saying, back away, please back away. Don't come closer. And he keeps saying that to her as she comes closer. And you see, she's the aggressor. He's not. His statement that he made, she can utilize and say, well, yeah, I didn't understand what that meant. Yeah, you're absolutely right. You could have gone ahead and said that and go, oh, I'm out of here. Taking yourself in a situation. You'll notice also when she finally, because the dog is sitting there and she's having a difficult time, she finally puts the leash on the dog, not because he told her or because she's following a rule, because the dog is getting so out of control that she can't control him that way. So she finally gets the leash to put on him. And his response is, thank you. Again, I'm flabbergasted by the amount of patience and the actions that he did. And I think it's to be applauded, and actually everybody should see this. This should be something that every single individual sees, and is a great way to have a conversation about what it means to be racist. Because everything in this video is racist and goes against the sexist tropes that we hear about, that anytime there's an altercation between a man and the woman, the man is the toxic masculinity, that he's the aggressor and that's the problem. but you also learn something very important from this video. And there are a lot of men who are in jail today because of this. Women know how to scream, and they know how to turn it on. She was on that phone and you heard the shrill. And what happens when that happens, people go, oh my God, it must have been really serious. But they know how to turn it on. For many of you here who had brothers or sisters, specifically, I was going on this one, but many of you had sisters, when you were a kid, you know there were times where your sister got you into trouble because she screamed and you did almost nothing or nothing to her, and it was a manipulation, and she sees that it works. That aspect of that scream leads this type of behavior to be able to flourish. It becomes reinforcing because people go, oh, you got to stop it now. Get away from your sister. And the idea is, well, but I didn't do anything. Doesn't make a difference you say you didn't do anything. The belief is we believe her. And that's a problem in our child rearing, where we've created these stereotypes and we foster them in our society. And sadly, and it angers me, that there are African Americans that have to tolerate this in their lives. And this should never be the case. I hope that you found this video helpful. I hope that you hit like if you liked the video. If you disagree with anything I said, I'd be very happy to hear it. Although I can't imagine that many people disagreeing. And if you'd like to become a patron to this endeavor, please, down below, hit the Subcribe-star link. Thank you very much. Have a good night. And have good mental health.